opportunity to introduce somebody. Thank you very much. Somebody very special today, since Reverend Miriam is in Russia, having a little vacay. She'll probably be here next week. I would like to introduce Reverend Patrick Harbula. There we go. Reverend Patrick has been a spiritual leader, counselor, and coach for over 30 years and reaches hundreds of thousands with his writing and personal and media appearances. Patrick is the author of The Magic of the Soul, Applying Spiritual Power to Daily Living, which is an elective course for Science of Mind training as a part of the 200 series through Science, CSL. He is founder of the Living Purpose Institute and creator of the Life Coach Certification Program and Primal Fire Intensive. Ooh, I like that. That sounds good. He was ordained as an independent religious science minister by the late Dr. Earl Burnham in 1985 and affiliated with CSL in 2010. He trained in spiritual psychology under the late Dr. Vivian King. He is also ordained and recognized as a Doctor of Divinity through the Spiritual Unity Movement, of which he was the president for 12 years. He founded Meditation Magazine. He was formerly a director of Sage Publications, a world-renowned social science publisher. Patrick will be available after the service to sign his book, which is in the back, speaking on radical gratitude and entrance into the sacred. Now also, he will have a workshop after service about 1 o'clock. So please welcome, with a center of the heart warm welcome, Dr. Reverend Patrick.
We did not rehearse it at all. Is that amazing? Well, I like to start out that way just because it brings me joy. And that's what the workshop is going to be later, by the way. It's called The Joy Factor, a life of infinite freedom. So how I want to start out, actually, is that we already did this, but I want to do it a little bit more, is asking you what you're grateful for. Because my title for the talk today is Radical Gratitude and Entrance into the Sacred. And so we're going to start out with regular old gratitude, and then we're going to talk about radical gratitude. So, the people who didn't already share, or if you want to share again, what are you grateful for? Just call it out. One at a time if we can.
Barbara.
Barbara, good one. St. Barbara.
My
My life.
To be here.
This teaching. What was that? Creativity? Great.
Constant lessons that keep coming.
Constant lesson. That's radical gratitude. We'll get to that. I like that.
Love.
Love. Good
To
one.
be here. Yeah,
Here.
good to be here.
Right here, right now. Cool.
My boys.
My voice.
Boys.
Oh, boys.
I'll take that too, though, my boys.
Good. Excellent. You have a nice voice.
Yeah,
Spirit.
my family.
Family. Friends. Community. Yeah, beautiful.
Nature.
Nature.
California.
California! I have a lot of clients on the East Coast and in Canada, and every client I have in Canada, it's like, God, I want to move to California. I'll tell you what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful to be here, and right now, speaking to you. This is just my joy in life. Is driving down here, I just thought, it's been a little while since I spoke on a Sunday. And usually I do it pretty consistently. I travel around a lot, and I thought, oh, can't wait to get there. And what a great community you have here. I absolutely love that you do chanting and meditation in the morning. I was here for the tail end of the chanting, and the vibration is just at such a high level, and I thought, man, this is going to be easy speaking in this energy, right? So I'm already revved up. Okay, so have you ever had the experience where you gave someone a gift, and maybe you didn't even think that much about it. You just thought, oh, this would be nice for this person. And you hand them the gift, and they light up like the sun. Is that the greatest experience in the world, to be the recipient of that kind of gratitude? Yeah? Guess what? The universal presence feels the same way. Not in an emotional way, but in an energetic way. The more we say yes to our life. In fact, I'm inspired to do something right now. So, everybody stand if you're willing and able. And if not, you can do it sitting. And so what we're going to say is, for all the things that we're grateful for in our life, we're going to say yes, yes, yes. And when we say yes, we're going to throw our fist into the air 3 times. Ready? Yes! 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 Yes!
Yes.
Doesn't that feel good?
Yes.
All right, well, you can have a seat or remain standing or dance in the aisles or whatever brings you joy. So when we say yes to our good, the universal presence, because it feels so good energetically, just wants to throw more good upon us. That makes sense, right? And I'll take that even further. When we say yes to the things that challenge us, doesn't that inspire you? When you see someone that has a challenging experience and they are embracing it, they're not backing away from it, but they're embracing it, and they're looking for the good in it. Isn't that the most inspiring thing?
Yeah.
And guess what the universal presence feels about that? I'm going to throw even more good onto this person, right? So, I'd like to take a little poll. How many people here in the last, let's say, year, have had anything challenging, difficult, painful occur in your life? Anyone? All right, so we're almost unanimous. And that's a good thing. That means you're human beings. I really love speaking to human beings. It's one of my favorite kind of audiences. Although the dogs at home, they're a really good audience too. The four-leggeds. So, anyone want to share what that challenging experience was and the greater freedom, joy, or love that is emerging from that challenge? What's the good that's coming out of it? Anyone want to share? Yes.
I've been in probate with my mother. She passed away 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been in a kind of a fight for a property.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been grateful.
Can everyone hear?
I've been grateful for my brother who is on the other side of this
Mm-hmm.
and offering him empathy and even emailing, even with bad thoughts that are coming to me.
Yeah.
I'm still offering him empathy
Mm-hmm.
and trust and care and trying to be a
so even though there's challenge in this, what's coming out of it for you is an increase of love, right? Expansion of love.
It's a journey.
Which isn't that, no matter what's happened, there is always an opportunity. And I believe, in one sense, in a general sense, everything that happens everywhere at any moment in time is a call for greater love, yes? Anyone else want to share? Yes?
Almost 2 years ago, when I arrived here, I'm from Brazil,
Uh-huh.
and my first day when my husband was traveling, because we are here, my husband, my son, and me. And my husband, I arrived here, my husband traveled for his field trip because he's studying here, and I couldn't speak English very well.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't understand how to drive here very well. I was completely lost, and I was driving with my son to buy some stuff in the supermarket. I was so nervous because I was so afraid about everything.
Mhm.
And when I arrived at home, I vomited. So nervous I was, and I
Yeah.
couldn't let my son know I was so nervous. So I was eating for myself. I was so afraid, and now, almost 2 years ahead,
Yeah.
I discovered that I have a lot of friends who speak English.
Mm.
And I'm so glad to meet a lot of
Yeah.
people here, and I'm glad to talk in English and people can understand me. And now when I talk for my mom in Brazil and my dad in Brazil, I think, Mom, we have friends here. We have family
Wow.
here too.
Wow.
Beautiful. It's more of a challenge.
How inspiring. Yeah. So, of those who raise their hands about the challenge, who have had a challenge, how many of those who raise their hand feel grateful in retrospect for the challenge? You people are crazy. Some people might say, why would anyone be grateful for something challenging, difficult, painful? Because of that, because we know that something good must come from this, right? So I tell you about my journey of writing the book, The Magic of the Soul. So it ended up being a very different book than I started out to write. Okay, I began writing it with the intention to write a book called The Magic of the Soul. It's going to be about how to create what you want in life. And I felt I was really good at manifestation, by the way. I had manifested a wonderful marriage of 13 years. I was strong, athletic. I was a tennis pro in my 20s. I was writing the book when I was 40 years old, 20 years ago. Just dated myself. And I had a wonderful job working for Sage Publications, 6-figure income. Everything was going great in my life, writing about the magic of the soul. And a funny thing happened on the way to the magic of the soul. Everything fell apart. I became chronically ill. My corporate job went away. The marriage of 13 years ended, all within about a period of 6 months. I was so sick at times I couldn't get out of bed for weeks at a time. I couldn't carry on a conversation for more than 10-15 minutes without being wiped out. And all the while, I'm doing everything I can to heal. I went the traditional route. I went to Mayo Clinic. They did all these tests. Nothing was found, no diagnosis. For 3 years, there was no diagnosis. And it was about 5 years before I started to get back to where I was. I would say 10 years before there were no symptoms. And so all the while, I'm doing everything I can. Alternatively, of course, I'm doing spiritual mind treatment, deep meditation for, several times a day to be in alpha and theta brainwaves, hyperbaric oxygen treatments. I mean, everything. I'm throwing lightning bolts at it, and nothing is changing the condition. And all the while, by the way, I'm resisting the symptoms because I'm thinking, how could this be happening to me? I'd been meditating since I was 18. I'd been in this movement since I was 24, doing these practices. How could this happen to me? I just couldn't understand it. And so finally, after about a year of this, maybe even 2 years as I'm thinking about it, I finally gave up. Not in an apathetic way, but in a surrendering way. And I decided, you know, if I am to die from this, and by the way, a little sidebar, my father died at 42 of cancer that hadn't been diagnosed for several years. And so it seemed to me like the proverbial writing was on the wall, like maybe I was nearing the end of this journey. And I decided if I am to die from this experience, what's happening to me, I probably thought at the moment, but I now realize what was happening for me. And I am going to use this experience to understand who I am at the deepest level, who I am as a sacred being. And guess what happened? Well, I'm standing here, right? I started to heal. But it was not a direct line toward healing. In fact, it was cyclical. What would happen is I would start to feel, I would surrender, I'd start to feel better. Then I'd go out and do something that I used to be able to do, like take a walk, and that would put me back in bed. Or I remember getting up and running for the phone to get to the phone one time, and that put me back in bed. And then I would resist, because it felt so good just to have a little bit of that physical energy. Again, it was like during that time of illness, it was like everything that I identified with on an ego level was stripped away. And I there had the opportunity to find out what is left, you know, devoid of my ego. And so then, I remember in that resistance and feeling worse, oh yeah, it was that surrendering thing that got me to feel better. So I would surrender again. It was as though my soul had set up the absolute perfect scenario for me to learn how to be in a consistent state of surrender. So what would I ask you, what would your life look like in a consistent state of surrender? And not that I achieve this all the time. I forget sometimes. I forgot yesterday. And in preparing for this talk, I remembered. And when I got here, by the way, I noticed that I didn't have my notes with me that I printed out. Got everything ready last night, prepared ahead of time, and my notes are somewhere on my desk. I brought everything else but my notes. But as I opened my briefcase and realized that, I thought, no worries, it'll be perfect just the way it is. We'll find out, won't we? So here's how I write about it in Magic of the Soul. Wow, I opened it to the right page. So I would have had it written out on a sheet of paper, but see, Magic of the Soul. When we're in the experience of appreciating the sacredness in life, we open to a world of unlimited possibilities. Because we are alert to the magic, we notice opportunities, possibilities that we might otherwise miss. When we are looking at the world through the eyes of our soul, from our infinite existence, our infinite presence, life becomes filled with a deeper level of peace and meaning as we recognize that every experience has something magical and know that each experience leads us to an ever-increasing expression of our soul energy. And so, what I've discovered is that anytime we resist anything, it creates a block in energy. So if I have a physical symptom, if I have pain in my knee, and I'm resisting that, right, then I'm creating tension at that place in my body. You know, I'm creating a block in energy in the chakra system. And as soon as I embrace, then the energy flows. So when I'm resisting, I am blocking the very energy that is wanting to come through for healing, right? I was watching my wife, who's been having pain in her knees, one night, talking to her knee and just saying, I love you. That's embracing. And she resists every now and then, too. So when we resist, we create a block in the energy. When we embrace, the energy flows. And what's the energy that flows? Light and love. It's the only energy there really is. When I resist, I'm blocking love energy. When I was doing the chanting and I was feeling, and at the end of the chant, you said there was something about raising the vibration. And what occurred to me is that when I'm in resistance, I cannot raise the vibration. I cannot be in a high vibration when I'm resisting something, right? So the ultimate road to peace, to inner peace, to infinite joy and freedom is embracing, is surrendering, is allowing. And so many of our spiritual teachers, you know, when I first started lecturing about this 17 years ago, I would see a lot of ahas, you know, going on in the audience. But this concept, this understanding, has reached critical mass because we've seen it everywhere. And so now all I see is heads nodding because we've heard it before, and we're all just saying it in different ways. And so all of our spiritual, our revered spiritual teachers are saying it just in different words. Byron Katie fan says, love everything. Eckhart Tolle says, give up resistance to what is. August Gold in New York, in her book, The Prayer Chest, says, invite everything. Robert Scheinfeld in Busting Loose from the Money Game says, appreciate everything comes into your life. I say, look for the magic in every experience. Or what I really have found now, how that's evolved for me, is to simply see the beauty in everything and everyone. Simply see the beauty. To look beyond what the senses or our bias tell us. And to see the truth at the core, which is only love. Only love. So, I'll tell you a little story that kind of illustrates this. And before I go into the story, I'll say another quote from Robert Scheinfeld of Busting Loose from Money Game. He says something really interesting. He says, we create our reality not from the presence of our personal self, like we might think when we hear about creating our reality. We create our reality from the presence of our soul self. Our soul self is choreographing everything that happens for us. And if I'm not seeing it as good, it means I'm seeing it through the limited perspective of my personal self. But when I can rise to that higher perspective, then I can see how it's good for me, right? So the question that I ask then, you know, because we almost, as conscious beings, we pretty much always look back at our challenging times and say, well, that's when I grew the most, right? We might even say, that was a great blessing. In retrospect, but often when challenge comes up, we're not in that place, right? We begin by resisting. I say in the Magic of the Soul, what if I, rather than waiting for the absolute crescendo of struggle to surrender, why not surrender at the very first sign of struggle, right? So, in other words, look for the blessing in the moment. And if I can't see it from that larger perspective, at least I can trust that there is a greater good that wants to emerge from this. You know, in Science of Mind, sometimes we misinterpret it to think, and I'll bet every one of you has heard this at some point, something happens that you don't like, and you say to yourself, what wrong thinking did I have that attracted this into my life, right? Or what's even worse is when someone else says to you, what was the wrong thinking that had you attract this into your life? And that always makes you feel instantly better, right? Not. The better question to ask is, what is the greater freedom, joy, or love that wants to emerge from this situation? It feels better, doesn't it? I like to quote Suzanne Summers. Remember when we had the Malibu fires several years ago? And hers was one of the homes that was demolished, completely devastated in the fire. And so she was interviewed, and this was on the front page of the New York Times and on TV, and they asked her, and she's standing in front of the smoldering ashes of her homes, and they said, so how do you feel right now? You remember that? And the first words out of her mouth were, I know something good will come from it. Feel the power in that? And you absolutely know something good had to come from it because she was expecting it. Something good would have come anyway. But she was able to access that, I'm sure, even sooner because she was looking for it, right? She was looking for the magic to unfold. So the theme of the book went from, yes, it's magical to create what we want in life. What's even more magical is to appreciate what we have. Not only the things that obviously bring us happiness, but especially the things that challenge us, because that's where the greatest gifts are. Yes?
Yes.
So, it was mentioned in my intro, I do this retreat called the Primal Fire Intensive. And I've done it all over. I did one just a few weeks ago in Catalan Island, in the secluded part of the beach, rustic camping. Oh, it was great. Actually, it's the most challenging retreat ever, but it was the most. But of course, it was the most magical as well, because the group bonded around all these challenges, through the challenge. So I was doing this in Canada. I've done it 10 years in a row in Canada. This was probably 8 years ago in Saskatchewan. And I was doing it with a friend of mine and a client of mine who owns an equine-assisted learning facility, which is simply a farm with horses. But these are very special horses. They've been trained to assist us with authenticity in the exercises that we do them. They help us to see who we really are. So we're preparing for the workshop, and Carol, my friend, asked me and what's her name, Kate, wonderful, wonderful, fun lady from Ireland, who was a woofer on the farm. Anyone know what a woofer is? Yes? What is it?
They work for the reward.
Workers on organic farms, right? And so she was working there. So she asked us to go and to clean up the barn to get it ready. So we're in there, we're baling this hay off the floor into these pits that were like very deep. We had to move these slats we're baling this hay to these pits, and to get it all in there, we had to kind of compress it down. So I'm in this one spot, and I'm pressing it down and putting all my weight on it. And Carol says, and by the way, the pits were there because when they had pigs in the barn, all the droppings of the pigs would go into those pits. So Carol says, careful, you don't want to fall in there. So I said, nah, no worry, I'm an athlete, I've got this. So I'm compressing it down. And then I step over to another spot where it wasn't so compact, and I go straight down. I did not fall in, but I went kind of like from 6'2" to 4'2" in a nanosecond, and then fell back on my back. And and I have to preface what came next with, you remember the Pink Panther series with Peter Sellers as the bumbling Inspector Clouseau? So how Kate described it later, she said, so here's this, I'm baling hay with this famous author, and he just does this really goofy thing, and I don't know what to say, I don't know what he's going to say, and so what I did is I stood up, dusted myself off, turned around and said, every move I make is perfectly planned. And we laughed for like a half an hour with our jaws aching, and that became kind of the line throughout the entire weekend of the retreat. Whenever anyone did something stupid, every move I make is perfectly planned. And I did this talk, I shared this story years and years ago and up in Northern California. And right afterwards, I was signing books, and there was a potluck, and a woman came up to me and she said, I think I got it, because I was just pouring some soup or sipping some soup, and I just spilled it all over my white dress. And I felt my blood heating up and my face getting red. She said, oh, every move I make is perfectly planned. And it just changed everything, right? So this is a spiritual practice. And by the way, anytime we can laugh at ourselves, that's a spiritual practice. And by the way, if we are creating our reality from the presence of our expanded self, then every move we make is perfectly planned. Yes?
Yes.
That's how brilliant we are. Even when we do the stupidest things. So let me just say something about the workshop. The workshop we're doing today is called the Joy Factor, Life of what is it? A life of infinite freedom. No, it's some other word. Yeah, life of infinite freedom or something like that. Unlimited freedom, that's it. A life of unlimited freedom. And so, how I define joy, by the way, is not the opposite of sadness, that's happiness. Joy to me is how I'm defining it for this purpose, is a pervasive spiritual quality that can be there even in the moments of loss or grief. Okay? And so I would say it's synonymous with deep inner peace, with profound connectedness. You know, it's Memorial Day tomorrow, right? I'd like to take a moment, actually, to ask us all to close our eyes and think about that person who is no longer with us, that holds your greatest memories. Or maybe it's more than one person. And in this moment, connect heart to heart, soul to soul. And maybe tears come, maybe emotions come. But if we don't resist the sadness, then it becomes joy, it becomes that ever-present spiritual quality of connectivity. Feel at the heart of the sadness is always love. Just feel that connection. Honor that connection. Sometimes we avoid the connection because it brings sadness. Here's an opportunity to know that the sadness is an entranceway into the profound joy. Take a deep breath into that connectivity. Just bring your awareness back when you're ready. And so that's the kind of joy that we're going to play with in the workshop. And we're also going to tell some jokes. It's going to be fun and funny. And I'm going to share an exercise that I do with all my coaching clients. It is the most powerful exercise I have found for keeping one's consciousness in a positive state on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. Also reminds me of the chanting. I was thinking when we were doing the chanting, you know, people in the Vedic traditions, they chant the name of God all day long, right? And it occurs to me that you can't be in resistance when you're chanting the name of God. You'd either have to stop and be in resistance, right? Or continue and allow the resistance to dissolve into the vibration of spirit. So I'll give you a preview to the exercise. So just very briefly, what percentage of the time would you assess for yourself that you are focused on the positive, feeling